What's up, guys? This is Sean and welcome back to the Eheng podcast. And today, this episode is brought to you by The Makeover Guys, which is the guys that actually furnish this house. A bit messy right now. But basically, for those who are actually getting your keys to your new house or your investment, right, do check out their website. Even check out their new experience center in M Hub, Kota Damansara to at least start. Because if you don't know anything about renovation, right, just go and learn about what is kitchen cabinets like, what's the materials like, what's melamine, what's plywood, what's MDF, what's HDF. Then think about the strategy if this is an investment unit, what to do, how to minimize costs, yet having the maximum impact for the unit and things like that, right? It can get kind of technical at times. It can be very overwhelming if it's your first time. I would strongly suggest to check them out. Link down below. And today we will read an email from YB. Hi Eheng, I've been following you for some time and learned a lot. However, finally it has reached my turn having a dilemma. Basically, I'm going to marry in January 2026. My fiancé and I actually each have one property. Hers completed, mine under construction. And both currently stay at our own parents' house. So the complication starts here. We have came into an agreement. We will move out our parents' house after marriage, but our house will not be available during 2026. Hers at Cyberjaya, Tamarind Square, monthly installment is about 1,008, currently renting out at a loss, and the tenancy agreement is signed until 31st, 2026. Still have 12 months after marriage. Mine at Sierra 16, Kovo will VP in 2027, but the construction actually reached level 19 out of 39, and the construction had just started Q3 2024, which is really fast. Monthly installment is about 1,001 when VP. So now, I am looking at a few options. Number one, pay back the 2 months rental to the tenant and dismiss the rental of the Tamarind to allow us to have a place to stay. Number two, rent a house and increase our commitment, which doesn't make sense because we actually have 3 houses to choose where to stay. Parents surely will complain and have a bad thoughts of why not willing to stay together even temporarily. Number three, die stay with in-law for 1 to 2 years, risking in-law relationships. Number four, I recently noticed a condo called Gem and it actually fits all my expectation for an own stay house, which previously I missed it because I visited them only phase 1, which was very expensive and I cannot afford. However, the phase 2 is affordable and it will squeeze my commitment to a maximum and our lifestyle quality will need to be reduced. What are your thoughts on this matter? Do you have a fifth suggestion that we did not thought of? Is option 4 a good option? I am having a net income of 7,000 a month, 11,000 a month for both of us, and I have the thought of not destroying my life quality by having too much commitment. If you think this topic might be too boring on YouTube, no lah. We are at the very undecisive T-junction right now. Okay, so let's just summarize a little bit. Okay, so getting married, congratulations. Wife have her own house. Solid, renting out at Tamarind Square. You bought one in Sierra 16 Kovo. 2027 only will VP. So now the agreement, both of you wants to move out of the parents' house. Finally, some alone times away from the parents, right? So first option, return the 2 months rental to the tenant. So take the unit back at Tamarind. Okay, this one here highlights the right of tenants in Malaysia. So at least they will still need to pay you back a certain amount of damages for you to move out from the unit again. And I've always said this in the channel, like I encourage a lot of people to rent while we continue building our wealth via property investment, right? Ultimately, that's the initial stage of the process because we have only 90% loan. The first 90%, we use it for investment. Second, use it for investment. Meanwhile, renting a place until when we really build up wealth, until the third one, finally only we buy something that we like, that we are going to stay in. So for the first 2 units, right, that stage is going to take about maybe 3 to 6 years time. It depends on how good you are and how high is your income. Part of the suffering or part of the sacrifice is to actually rent a house to stay because it involves the risk of such. The owner suddenly will just want to kick out, right? Hey, we want the unit back already, can you move out? So let's just check the tenancy agreement, right? And they just need to give you back 2 months and I can just ask you to go. Well, it's their property and they have the right. So as a tenant, no choice. Because ultimately, after you were to really have a property under your name, part of the enjoyment, which also includes certain level of expenses, it's that certainty. Like nobody can chase you out of this house provided you pay the money installment of the bank. Like if not, the bank can also chase you out. So that's why this property ownership thing can be so romantic, especially when we have older parents. The last thing we want is for them to get chased out by a landlord or whatsoever, right? So it's always like a very important thing to have a fully paid house for them to call home, because when they old, they know they got no more income, they don't want to pay installments anymore. So at least, right, I will just have an individual title house. I can die inside and I settle. That's it for life lah. Therefore, the current oversupply condition in Malaysia is actually a very beautiful thing, because it's a selective thing. Meaning, it's in a selected locations only is oversupply. Selected locations, rental is actually going berserk right now. So we can still balance between where we want to stay and where we want to invest. So that's the beautiful part about Malaysia. That's something to point out, right, for point number one. Which leads to the second thing, to rent a house and increase our commitment. But doesn't make sense because we actually have 3 houses to choose from. Yeah, you already know that you cannot make sense, but is that really a good thing? Like from personal experience lah, so mine is actually in between 2 and 3, right? So for the first few years after we get married, because I got no money, I'm still building the channel, still building the business, right? I actually stayed with the in-laws, and it's very weird when you start the process, right? But already having the mindset of getting into an argument with your in-laws. Weird, right? Why cannot be a very harmonious thing, man? And this is the hack. The hack is the guy, which is you, should move into the lady's house. Because most of the time, the tension happens between the woman, the mother and the wife, whether in-law or not lah. But on the guy side, right, we all chill one. Technically based on customs and old beliefs, right? The bride should always move into the guy's house, right? So technically that's the thing lah. So the mother-in-law will be someone like the person in power in terms of domestic affairs or things like that, right? If you were to move into the wife's house, like I'm spoiled from my point of view, right? My in-laws are amazingly welcoming. So my upfront suggestion here will be number 3, actually, to die stay with your in-law for the first 1 to 2 years time, and that time it depends also whether when you guys want to have family planning, so when you guys want to have kids. To me, the argument will be about how to raise kids. All of us very weird, right? Because as parents, right, we are very strict. We want our children to behave lah, to have certain ethics lah. But suddenly when we become grandparents, right, all those logic all gone case one. Until now, I believe the role of grandparents is to spoil the grandchildren. Suddenly the tension between the grandparents and parents then becomes a thing, but it comes from the same place of loving the kid, which is the weirdest thing. Then only you need a place to move out. Then for point number 4, right, you notice this condo called Gems, which fits all your expectation for an own stay, right? You missed it because it was too expensive, so now phase 2 is a little bit cheaper. But you already know it's going to squeeze your commitment to a maximum and lifestyle quality needs to reduce. Now you are still single, bro. You just get married, right? So for guys especially who are listening to this, right, the major money burning phase, it's always during the 30 years old junction. That's when society expects us to really get married, right? Then with marriage, it's not cheap also. It depends on what race you are also. But now I think all the same also. So you need to prepare the rings, prepare the ceremony, prepare the dinner. Then sometimes the parents might want a little bit more face, not collecting ang pao. So that's burning more money, right? Then before the marriage, you already need to have a house. If not, where my daughter is going to live, right, when she gets married to you. So suddenly the home ownership burden comes into play as well. At the same time, this is the stage where you are expected to excel in your career. But let's face it, right, a lot of people, we come out blur until we're 28, finally find something that we are kind of good in, we kind of passionate, right? Then suddenly want to get married already. Then after that, right, then all parents nothing to do, all will ask you, hey, when you want to have your first kid and things like that. And when the kid comes, not so much of money lah, but also a lot lah. But you think about it, right? You go into private hospital is one, confinement centers, then all the tools and daily necessities for the baby and the wife, right? So all these kind of things are all money. Of course, a lot of arguments will then revolve around cheaper alternatives, right? But ultimately, what do we want? By having more money, it gives us option. I don't want to wait in a government hospital, so I can just cut queue and go to private. Although it costs like 5 to 8 times more, I can afford. Why not, right? So all I'm saying is by having all those extras, it gives you some leeway, it gives you some level of temporary freedom. Because if you were to have the kid in 1 to 2 years time, trust me, you will take a lot of leaves. There will be a lot of leaves like somebody sick, you need to jaga the kid, anything you need to jaga the kid, you jaga the wife. And again, based on my experience, I used to be like you too, which I want to die, want to be independent, I want to move out, so it proves that I can take care of myself, right? But time to think about it, technically by having more members in the house, it's a very good thing actually. I now see the beauty of why all the old uncles one big house to host all the family members together, because it's actually easier to manage and you can leverage on each other's expertise and resources. Because you guys are still newlyweds, so you guys don't see it yet. That's the weirdest thing also. Imagine I have 3 kids, right? I have sibling A, B, C. When A just gave birth to the newborn, B and C will treat him like prince or whatsoever, right? The baby of the family, everybody will give all their love, or everybody's first time too is going to be very happening. That's why sometimes the mother get paranoid because of the high level of loving. It comes with the concept of spoiling, right? But what they don't notice is the breeder that you get. A lot of mothers who are taking care of their own newborns, right? You will realize this thing where you can never sleep, man. For the first 3 to 6 months time, it's an absolute test of energy. So sometimes by having just extra person or extra eye in the house to kind of just look out for the baby while she's working at home, right? While sibling B and C is at the house, can temporarily play. So when you go out together, outing, right, it's actually way easier. Until B gets their own kids, C their own kids, the kids will entertain each other and play with each other. So uncle and auntie A and uncle and auntie B can go out and play while uncle and auntie C take care of everybody's kids for the night. Nights like this is absolutely possible. Maybe even the grandparents will do it voluntarily. But I'm just not too sure since when communication between family members becomes a burden, which leads to this market performance of big houses, right, mansions, right, all not doing very well, because no longer families all want to stay together. Everybody wants to build their own house. But technically, you just think about economically speaking, and it's just not as efficient. By the point of view of resources also, like you have 3 to 4 families in a house, right? Certainly the cost of a domestic helper, the cost of cleaners or drivers, right, will make absolute sense. But when individual families need to have their own, right, suddenly the cost is too high. But I do understand all of it comes with the politics. When you have a lot of people, sure got politics. I do understand that. So to me, coming back to YB, right, my plan will be this. Option 1 is okay, which is to just cancel and move into Tamarind Square. I'm all good. So suddenly you can have the privacy of living together. But my consideration will be the convenience of the location to your workspace first. Because at this stage right now, you will need to really up the level of your income. Like 7,000 is good, but I think it could be better. I would suggest you to check the latest medical fees if a wife were to give birth in a private hospital. Then check whether C-section or not, with epidural or not, all this kind of thing, right? The cost of it is easily going to be like about 10,000 to 15,000, depends where you go. Then maternity cost a month, where are you going to send? Is it a 15,000 range or is it a 30,000 range? Then do check on the kids' daycare fees, right? So 4 months time down the road, how much are you going to spend? And after you check all this, right, suddenly the last option of buying a new property, right, doesn't really make sense. And I suggest to not go ahead first. Wait first. Chill out, bro. Because you haven't gone through the wedding yet. So having extra money in the bank, right, you won't feel suffocated, man. Don't need to be so kanchiong in leveraging yourself with more properties. And these are properties that is not really for investment, it's for own stay. It's part of the living expenses. I would say to just chill, right? So option 1, I think is still okay, but deep down, I think that living with the in-law first will be the best. Because just by living in, right, you can actually just offer to pay for utility fees. Then occasional go out and makan, right, just pay for the bills just to show that you contribute to the family. And because guys, we had hardly at home, and technically I think it should be at this current stage. So when you are not at home all the time, there won't be any room for misunderstanding also. Then just have a mutual agreement like, okay, by 2027, Kovo, this will be the house that we're going to live in. So by 2027, do have a renovation fee ready about 50 to 80,000, because it's for own stay. You will want all the built-in cabinets, right? And it's only about like what, 1 year only, because you get married in 2026. So it's only 1 year. And okay, so then now the second question you need to plan with your wife or your wife to be is, are you going to have kids and when to have kids? Do you want to have kids after the house is ready or before the house is ready? Again, from my experience, I would suggest to have it before, because you will have everybody in the family all wanting to offer their help. The only disagreement is because they want to help so much, it kind of affects the voluntary effort to do things as the first time father. That's the only dispute that will happen. Because trust me, thinking back, right, I think it's better that they help. And then in this format, it's easier if the mother takes care of the daughter that is taking care of the baby, instead of an in-law trying to take care of the daughter, because still not your mother ma, like you cannot scold back, so a bit paiseh one. So here then the only ego is, as a guy you stay with your in-laws lor, so are your friends going to be teasing you or going to laugh at you? To me, screw it lah. You're not paying the bills anyway, you don't know my circumstance anyway, and who are you for me to impress in the first place? So that is my point of view actually. In conclusion, because it's for an own stay, I would suggest no, but if it's for an investment, then maybe. I would suggest to actually try to fix up Tamarind Square unit for the next tenancy, because we are looking into this drastic raise in rental rates in Cyberjaya currently. So we are looking the same thing in Iskandar Puteri, Medini and Cyberjaya. So this used to be that master plan concept where it's adopting that plug and play format. Infrastructures are all built before developers are building on their individual plots and launching to the market. Right? This kind of format became too convenient and too fast for initial populations to build, leading to property prices to crash. Supplies just increased too drastically. It's too easy to build without building all the infrastructure. So now, as time passed, so they had their peaks and they had their fall. So now we're actually seeing the rental rates, right, creeping up strongly in both of these townships. That's why personally, I'm also looking into these two townships, which is Iskandar Puteri in Johor, which is away from the RTS, which is away from the first JB Causeway Link kind of craze right now, right? So I do see a lot of hidden gems here right now. The second part is actually Cyberjaya, when everybody is having stigma to a particular location. Like one of the short clips that I've made before, if you search top 10 best rental performance, right, a lot of condos in Cyberjaya are actually within the list. Of course, it's with the current market price versus the current market rent, and they are amazing right now. Then until you move into your Kovo, everything settled down already, only you can start investing again, because you're very young ma. And the last thing we want is we overgeared ourselves, then we need to compromise and discount the living expenses. Of our own is fine, I'm all good if it's on our own, but for our family, I don't think so lah. Just for a potential money-making opportunity, you want to compromise their living standards. Suddenly you want to go to that tier 1 confinement, cannot, we need to save money so we can invest more. The goal of investment is to give them a better life ma. So it's the other way around now. And I guess that's all for this episode. What an interesting one. Now this show is like turning into a marriage, relationship, couple show. But because all these are still very closely related to personal finance and property ownership, I guess that's why. So do let me know whether is this kind of episodes okay. This is not your usual point by point numbers by figures and rentals and strategies and things like that. Do tell me what you guys think. And I guess that's all for this episode. Thank you very much YB again for sending in an email. For those who still have any real estate related questions, do just email me at taniherng@gmail.com. You can just DM me on Instagram, iherng, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Ciao. When love comes in